Welcome everybody to the 2022 NBA Offseason Illogical Awards. If you don't know what this is, you can check this link up here. That'll show you the regular Illogical Awards for the 2022 season. Basically, these are bad awards. These are negative awards for teams and for players that did incorrect things. During the season, we did it, and now for the offseason, we're going to talk about trades, we're going to talk about signings, and hand out some negative awards to the teams and players that did the worst. Really quickly though, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, SeatGeek. SeatGeek is a ticketing app that makes buying tickets to your favorite events, basketball games, football games, concerts, super simple and easy. Because when you're excited to go to those kinds of events, you don't want to spend hours and hours researching the best value, where the best seats are, how you can best spend your money. So SeatGeek does that for you. I've used SeatGeek in the past to go to preseason basketball games, regular season NBA games, college football games. I went to a Carolina Hurricanes playoff hockey game this past season as well. And it's a great way to just save time and just have fun going to your favorite events. So for example, let's say I want to plan ahead and I want to go to a Celtics Hornets preseason game coming up this fall. I just pull up the app and it automatically sorts everything based off the best deal on the app, the best value for your money based off where you're sitting and how much you're going to spend. You can keep scrolling if you want to look at all of your options. It shows you on the map right here as well. Green is good, yellow is worse, red is bad. It is so simple to get good value, which is what you want when you're going to an event. And if you've never used SeatGeek before, now is a great time to use the app to go to your first event. You can get $20 off your first order at SeatGeek when you use the code SPORTING. Again, that is $20 off of a ticket to your first event when you use code SPORTING at SeatGeek. Let me know what events you guys are excited for coming up this summer and fall, and thank you again to SeatGeek for sponsoring this video. And to give you a really good idea of how exactly this is going to work, our first award is a very common one. We give it out all the time. It is the Billy King Award for the worst trade of the offseason, and this award goes to the Minnesota Timberwolves for the Rudy Gobert trade. Now, coincidentally, we're talking about the Billy King Award here, and of course, his infamous trade was with Danny Ainge of the Boston Celtics, and now Minnesota is in this video because of their dealings with Danny Ainge, now of the Utah Jazz. So the Rudy Gobert thing, we've talked about it in previous videos. There was no other trade that could have been mentioned here. You can talk about maybe the Jeremy Grant trade was a little bit weird because they created all this cap space and didn't get more than one first for Jeremy Grant, and then they didn't use the cap space. You can talk about some other deals. Maybe DeJounte Murray you think is a worse trade, but when you think about the money that Rudy Gobert is going to be making over the next couple of seasons, he's one of the worst contracts in the league, in my opinion. He's getting older. His play is declining a little bit in some of the advanced numbers defensively, and they gave up like 5 or 6 first-round picks and swaps and all this other stuff to put him on a team that you could argue isn't a top 4 team in the Western Conference and is maybe a little bit of a weird fit alongside of Karl Anthony Towns. If you're going to invest this much in a player, one, you want to make sure that you're getting really good value, which I'm not sure that they did in Rudy Gobert. I certainly wouldn't have traded this much in exchange for him. And two, you definitely want to make sure that it's a really good fit and elevates your team to championship contention. And right now, Karl Anthony Towns and the Timberwolves are saying publicly that they feel like this is now a championship caliber roster. It's championship or bust. And maybe in a few years it will be, but the problem with this deal more than anything else is the guy that's going to push them to be championship contenders, in my opinion, is Anthony Edwards. And he's like 21 years old. Rudy Gobert is going to be 35 by the time that Anthony Edwards is in his prime, and he's going to be making $40+ million at that point as well. There's no way, in my opinion, that you can justify this as a good trade for Minnesota, even if they're pretty good this year in the regular season. Even if Gobert is a good fit alongside Karl Anthony Towns, they're not going to be championship contenders for at least the next couple of seasons. And by that point, all of the benefit of the Gobert trade will have pretty much gone away. And when you think about the draft capital that they decided to give up in this deal, they have to be this year's winner of the Billy King Award. Next up is another common award. It is the Summer of 2016 award, given to the worst contract given out this offseason after the infamous summer of 2016 when the cap spiked and Ian Mahinmi and guys were getting $20 million a year. And this year's winner is Bradley Beal of the Washington Wizards. Now, not only was this the worst contract that was given out this offseason, you could also argue that it is one of, if not the worst contracts in the entire league. And Bradley Beal is a very good basketball player. We've talked before in the past about the fact that I think it's easy to argue that he's not a top 30 player in the league, but he's still very good. He's an incredible 3-level scorer. He's someone that is certainly capable, we've seen it, of scoring 30+ points per game, leading the league in scoring. He's an incredible scorer, but he's not a number 1 guy. He's not a primary guy that's going to help you just go and win 50, 60 games and be a title contender. That's not who Bradley Beal is. He's a number 2 or number 3 option on a championship team, and he's getting paid on a supermax like someone that is a consistent perennial All-NBA player, and he's made an All-NBA team once. And that, you guys, if you've watched my Bradley Beal video before, you know where I'm going with this. That's not the worst part of this whole situation. It's not just the money, it's not just the years, it's not just the fact that he's getting older, it's not just the fact that Washington doesn't know what a 50-win season looks like. It's because of the no trade clause. There's no way you can convince me that Bradley Beal should have a no trade clause on his contract. They can say whatever they want to publicly about how he wants to be there and they want to keep him and how it's, you know, this harmonious relationship, and Beal wants to win a title in Washington. I don't care. There's no other player in the entirety of the league that has a true 100% veto power no trade clause other than Bradley Beal. And not only is that bad because he's not deserving of having that, there's 29 other players in the league that should have it in front of him, but also it's very likely, in my opinion, that he is going to get traded at some point over the next couple of seasons, and that veto power actively lowers the value Washington can expect to get in return for Bradley Beal. And I don't care what kind of conversations they've had with Beal where he is committed to the team and they feel really good with their relationship, because if you seriously think and are confident enough to give him a no trade clause because you don't think there's any way he's asking out in the next 5 seasons, then you haven't been paying attention to the NBA for the last 10 years. Everybody always wants to ask out with very, very few exceptions. It's basically Damian Lillard and Bradley Beal, but now that Beal has his big contract, this is the number he's been waiting on, the Supermax deal. Now that he has it, he is going to leave, and giving him a no trade clause and the money you gave him is absolutely egregious. There's no other deal that could have won the Summer of 2016 award other than Bradley Beal. Next up now is a really fun one. This is the Clutch Sports Award, a new award given out this offseason for the most egregious tampering of the offseason, and that is the New York Knicks and Jalen Brunson. Now, if you watched some of my content over the last couple of weeks, you know that I'm not a huge fan of the Jalen Brunson contract as a whole, but we don't have to, rehash that right now, because what I'm talking about here is one of the most egregious tampering efforts that we have seen in years. Basically going back to when Anthony Davis ended up in LA and New Orleans was upset that the Lakers basically pushed him there. That's why it's the Clutch Sports Award for egregious tampering, because not only are there family members of Jalen Brunson on the staff of the New York Knicks, not only have they been, sitting courtside at times and of Mavericks games, but the deal was basically decided like 2 days before free agency was supposed to open. And like everybody knows that everybody tampers, right? And whether it's, back channels or whether it's directly illegal or against the rules, whatever the case may be, there's no way that there isn't tampering, because if free agency opens at 6 and at 6:01, like 15 contracts are already agreed to, obviously they didn't do it in 1 minute. But the Brunson thing seemed especially egregious because it was reported as basically done like 2 days in advance of free agency actually opening, and we had real actual numbers. And that, to me, we talked before about it's really difficult to like police tampering, but if you're going to give out an award for tampering, the Clutch Sports Award for egregious tampering, there is no other contract in the league this offseason that deserves that award more than Jalen Brunson and the New York Knicks. Next up now is a really easy one. It is the Offseason Disaster Award. Pretty self-explanatory, and it goes to the Brooklyn Nets. Now, what exactly happens the rest of the way with the Nets offseason is still very, very much up in the air. But as a general concept, if you get to the point in your offseason where Kevin Durant is actively requesting a trade from your team, despite the fact that he signed an extension with the team the year prior and has 4 years left on his contract, that's an absolute disaster. There's no other way you can phrase it. Even if you can talk yourself into, as I have mentally, of, oh, well, even if they trade KD, they'll get a lot back. They'll get some stuff for Kyrie. They still have Ben Simmons. There's still an opportunity for them to not be awful over the next couple of seasons and get really good value in exchange for Kevin Durant. Even if you make that argument, which I think is relatively plausible, you still can't applaud the Nets for getting to the situation where Kevin Durant is actively and aggressively requesting a trade to leave the Nets. There's no way you can spin that in a positive way. And so from an off-season disaster standpoint, there's no other team that can win this award other than the Brooklyn Nets. And then last up now is the Overrated Trade Asset Award, and this one goes to Tyler Hero of the Miami Heat. Now, I say overrated, but really maybe I should have phrased it as most polarizing, but I say overrated because I see consistently, time after time, trade proposals and stuff people are sending me on Twitter that involve Tyler Hero as the centerpiece of a Donovan Mitchell or a Kevin Durant trade. And somehow we got from Tyler Hero's really good as a rookie in the bubble, and now he's sixth man of the year, 20 points per game, good scorer, to like centerpiece, like Brandon Ingram, Jaylen Brown level centerpiece of Kevin Durant, Donovan Mitchell trades. Like, that's just not where this guy is. And consistently, I see people putting him there. I understand that he's young. I understand that maybe in the future he will be an all-star caliber player, but he's going to get a max contract soon or close to it from Miami or whatever team he ends up on. And he sucks at defense. Like, he's not a two-way player. He could very, very easily be like max contract Lou Williams in 2 seasons if someone gives him a max and trades for him and thinks that he is like the centerpiece of a deal. Like, if you announced tomorrow a Kevin Durant trade to Miami, and it was, I don't care about the draft pick compensation, I don't care about getting Duncan Robinson or whatever. If the centerpiece is Tyler Hero, it's one of the worst trades in NBA history, in my opinion. Now, there are some people reportedly within the NBA that love the guy, that think he's a future All-NBA caliber guy, one of the best young scorers in the league, and someone that's going to continue to grow and develop defensively. Sure, okay, fine. If you want to have that opinion, that's fine. I don't see a scenario where Tyler Hero becomes a valuable two-way player, someone that can defend, someone that you can count on to be an all-around positive force on your basketball team outside of just scoring. And there's a lot of really talented scorers in the NBA, and so I'm not necessarily going to prioritize Tyler Hero within my offense unless he's coming off the bench. And so I think the role that he's in right now is perfect for him, and I'm not trading Kevin Durant or Donovan Mitchell in exchange for what looks to be potentially a career very, very good sixth man in Tyler Hero. And so I think he's one of, if not the most overrated trade assets in the league. And specific to this offseason as it relates to the Donovan Mitchell Kevin Durant trade rumors, I think he has to win this award. And that is going to be the end of this year's off-season 2022 NBA Illogical Awards. Let me know down in the comment section below what awards you guys would have liked to see in the video. And thank you guys for watching. I'll see y'all next time.